The silent planet Captain Zara of the Galactic Council stood frozen on the bridge of her flagship. The holographic display showed something impossible. Earth, that quiet little blue planet on the edge of the galaxy, had just launched something into space. For 300 years, every species in the galaxy knew the same truth. Humans were peaceful farmers and traders. They sold food and art. They wrote beautiful music and grew amazing crops. They never fought wars. They didn't even have weapons. "Captain," her communication officer whispered, "we're getting reports from all sectors. Every monitoring station in the galaxy is seeing the same thing." The image on screen made Zara's blood run cold. A massive ship rose from Earth's surface, but this wasn't like any human vessel they'd ever seen. Their usual ships were small, round, and friendly-looking. This thing was different, very different. The ship was enormous, bigger than anything in the Galactic Council fleet. It stretched for miles, dark as space itself, with sharp edges that seemed to cut through starlight. Strange symbols glowed along its hull. The design looked ancient, like something from the old wars that happened before most species reached the stars. "How big is it?" Zara asked. 12 miles long, Captain. 3 miles wide. We've never seen anything like it." Zara thought about every encounter she'd had with humans. They always smiled. They brought gifts. They asked about her family. They shared stories about their gardens and their pets. The idea of these same beings building a warship seemed crazy. "Open a channel to Earth," she ordered. The view screen flickered. A human face appeared, a woman with kind eyes and gray hair. Ambassador Chen, Earth's representative to the galaxy. Zara had shared dinner with her just last month. "Hello, Captain Zara," Ambassador Chen said calmly. "I imagine you have questions. What is that ship?" Zara demanded. Ambassador Chen was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, sadder. "That is the Prometheus. We hoped we would never need to use her." "Use her for what?" "War, Captain Zara. Something we pray you never have to learn about." The connection ended. Across the galaxy, emergency alarms started ringing on every council ship. What no one knew was that 3 days earlier, Earth had received a message. It came from the edge of known space where the old enemy lived. The message was simple: "We return. Your galaxy belongs to us. Submit or die." The galaxy had forgotten about the Devourers, but Earth remembered. Earth had always remembered. Admiral Sarah Martinez stood in the command center buried deep beneath Colorado's mountains. Around her, screens showed data from 1,000 hidden sensors scattered across human space. Her staff worked quietly, efficiently. They had trained for this day their whole lives, hoping it would never come. "Admiral," her aide reported, "the Prometheus has cleared Earth's atmosphere." "All systems are online," Sarah nodded. She was 60 years old. Her grandmother had fought in the last war against the Devourers. Her great-grandmother had designed the first human warships. For 3 centuries, every generation of her family had prepared for this moment. "Send the signal," she said quietly. Across the galaxy, hidden bases on asteroids and moons suddenly came online. Weapons that had been disguised as mining equipment revealed their true purpose. Ships that looked like cargo vessels shed their fake hulls to show armor and guns underneath. The peaceful farmers had been preparing for war the whole time. On the bridge of her flagship, Captain Zara watched in horror as her sensors detected more ships, hundreds of them, all emerging from places where humans had said they were just running research stations or agricultural centers. "Captain," her tactical officer said, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from the human ships. These weapons, they're beyond anything we have." Zara understood now why the galaxy was screaming in fear. They had all been living a lie. The humans weren't peaceful farmers. They were the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy, and they had been hiding it perfectly for 300 years. But why? The answer came from the edge of space. A fleet of black ships, each one the size of a moon, dropped out of hyperspace. The Devourers had returned. The nightmare from the old stories was real, and Earth was the only planet ready to fight them. The hidden truth: the Galactic Council emergency session was chaos. Representatives from 100 worlds all screamed at once. "Fear filled the great chamber like poison. The humans lied to us," shouted Ambassador Keth from the warrior planet Drakmor. They've been building weapons while we shared our technology with them. They pretended to be our friends, cried the representative from peaceful Altara. We trusted them. High Chancellor Vorn called for order. He was 800 years old and had seen many wars. But even he looked shaken. We must understand what we're dealing with. Bring in the human ambassador. Ambassador Chen walked into the chamber. She moved differently now. The kindly grandmother act was gone. She stood straight like a soldier. Her eyes were hard. Ambassador Chen, Chancellor Vorn said, explain yourselves. Why did humanity lie about your true nature? We didn't lie, Chen replied calmly. We are farmers and artists and musicians. We love our families. We enjoy peaceful trade. Everything you know about us is true. Then explain the warships. Keth snarled. Chen touched a control on her wrist. The chamber's main screen lit up with historical data. 400 years ago, our galaxy faced extinction. A race called the Devourers swept across star systems like a plague. They consumed everything, planets, stars, entire civilizations. Most species fought them individually and died. The screen showed ancient battle footage. Ships exploding, worlds burning, billions of beings fleeing in terror. Humanity was young then, Chen continued. We had just learned to travel between stars. We saw what was happening and made a choice. Instead of running or hiding, we studied the enemy. We learned from every battle, every defeat. The images changed. Human ships fighting alongside other species, taking massive losses but never retreating. We found their weakness, Chen said. The Devourers expected their enemies to fight the way they always had, with honor, following the old rules of war. But humans don't fight with honor when survival is at stake. We fight to win. Chancellor Vorn leaned forward. What do you mean? We poisoned their food supplies. We sent fake surrender messages and then attacked during the ceremonies. We hid bombs inside gifts. We pretended to be dead and then struck from behind. We broke every rule of civilized warfare. The chamber fell silent. This was the truth no one wanted to hear. It worked, Chen said. After 50 years of total war, we drove them back beyond the galactic rim. The surviving Devourers fled to dark space, where most species cannot follow. But they're back now, Chancellor Vorn whispered. Yes, and this time they're ready for our tricks. So we had to become something new. Chen's voice grew cold. For 300 years we've been playing a part, acting like peaceful traders while we prepared for their return. The screen showed the truth. Hidden shipyards inside asteroids, weapons testing on remote moons, entire human colonies that existed only to support the war effort. Every human child learns two histories, Chen explained. The public one, about farming and art and friendship, and the real one, about the coming war and why we must be ready. Ambassador Keth stood up, his warrior pride offended. You should have told us. We could have prepared together. Chen looked at him sadly. Could you? The Drakmor military doctrine hasn't changed in 1,000 years. You still believe war should be glorious. The Alterans refuse to build any weapons at all. The Council spends more time arguing about trade routes than defense. She was right, and everyone knew it. We love you all, Chen continued. Humans have made genuine friends throughout the galaxy. But friendship and survival are different things. We couldn't risk the galaxy's safety on the hope that you might change your nature in time. The chamber's alarm system suddenly activated. Emergency lights flashed red. Incoming message from the galactic rim, announced the communication system. Priority Alpha, Devourer fleet detected. Estimated size 10,000 ships. Time to reach populated systems, 72 hours. Panic erupted again. 10,000 ships was an impossible number. The entire Galactic Council fleet had only 3,000 vessels. Ambassador Chen stood up. The Prometheus is moving to intercept. We'll buy you as much time as we can. One ship against 10,000? Chancellor Vorn asked. Chen smiled, and for the first time it wasn't kind. It was the smile of a predator. One ship to start. But humanity doesn't fight alone anymore. We have allies you don't know about. Species that remember the old war. Species that have been preparing alongside us. As if summoned by her words, new ships appeared on the scanners. Vessels from the outer rim worlds. The forgotten colonies. The lost civilizations. All of them armed with human technology. All of them ready for war. The galaxy's screams of fear turned to whispers of hope. But the real battle was just beginning. The enemy revealed space around the galactic rim turned into hell. The Devourer fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a black tide. Each ship was a nightmare made real. They looked like living things, all curves and organic shapes, covered in what looked like scales or armor plates. But they were machines, terrible machines built for one purpose, consuming everything in their path. Admiral Martinez watched from the Prometheus's command center. Her ship hung in space between the Devourers and the rest of the galaxy. Behind her, 300 human vessels formed a battle line. It looked hopeless. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "we're getting detailed scans of the enemy fleet." "They've changed." The main screen showed the results. These weren't the same Devourers from the old stories. Their ships were bigger, faster, covered in new weapons that human databases had never seen before. "They learned from our last war, too," Martinez said quietly. "They spent 300 years getting ready just like we did." Captain Sarah Kim, commander of the destroyer Fury, appeared on the communication screen. She was young, only 30, but she came from 5 generations of warriors. "Admiral, my ship is detecting strange energy patterns from the Devourer vessels. They're not just ships." "Explain." "They're growing, Admiral. The ships are literally getting bigger as we watch. They're consuming space dust, asteroids, anything they can find, and using it to build more weapons." Martinez felt ice in her stomach. This was worse than they'd planned for, but she'd trained her whole life for this moment. All ships prepare for engagement. "Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for." The Devourer fleet suddenly accelerated. They moved faster than should have been possible for ships that size. The lead vessel was enormous, bigger than Earth's moon. It pulsed with red energy like a heartbeat. Then it spoke. The voice came through every communication system in the fleet. It was wrong somehow. Like 1,000 voices speaking together, but not quite in harmony. "Little humans, you surprised us once with your cruelty. It will not happen again." Admiral Martinez opened a channel to the entire human fleet. "This is Admiral Martinez to all ships. The enemy wants to talk. Let me give them our answer." She switched to the Devourer frequency. "This is Admiral Sarah Martinez of Earth's Defense Fleet. I have a message for you." "Speak, little warrior. You made a mistake 300 years ago. You let some of us live. Today, you'll learn why that was the worst decision in galactic history." The lead Devourer ship pulsed brighter. "Brave words. Let us see if your weapons have improved since our last dance." The Devourer fleet opened fire first. The space around the human fleet exploded with energy beams that could crack planets. But the human ships didn't just dodge, they seemed to vanish entirely, reappearing in different positions before firing back. "Quantum displacement fields active," reported Captain Kim. "Their targeting systems can't lock onto us." But the Devourers adapted quickly. Their energy beams spread out like nets, covering huge areas of space. Several human ships took hits and exploded in balls of fire. "Phase 2, Martinez ordered. The human battle line suddenly split apart. Instead of fighting together like a traditional fleet, each ship became a lone hunter. They used hit-and-run tactics, striking fast, and then disappearing before the Devourers could return fire. It worked for about 10 minutes. Then the Devourer ships did something impossible. They began to merge. Smaller vessels flew into larger ones, combining their mass and weapons. Within moments, the 10,000 ship fleet had become 1,000 much larger ones. Then 500, then 100 massive superfortresses. They're consolidating their forces, Martinez realized, becoming too big for our tactics to work. The largest Devourer ship, now the size of a small planet, turned toward the Prometheus. When it fired, its weapon beam was wide enough to swallow the entire human flagship, but the beam never connected. At the last second, space itself seemed to bend around the Prometheus. The energy beam curved away harmlessly. "Gravity manipulation systems online," reported the tactical officer. "We can deflect their weapons, but not for long. The power drain is enormous." Martinez made a decision that would haunt her forever. All ships, execute Protocol 7. Across the fleet, human captains received the order they'd all hoped never to hear. Protocol 7, total war, no rules, no mercy. Use every weapon, no matter how terrible. Captain Kim was the first to comply. The Fury launched a spread of missiles toward the nearest Devourer ship. But these weren't normal missiles. As they flew, they split apart, revealing their true cargo. Nanomachines designed to consume metal and replicate themselves. The missiles struck the Devourer ship's hull and began eating it from the inside out. Within minutes, the massive vessel collapsed into itself as its own structure was devoured. But the Devourers had their own terrible weapons. The largest ship opened what looked like a mouth and released a cloud of darkness. Everything the cloud touched simply stopped existing, not destroyed, erased from reality itself. The cloud swept toward Earth's fleet like the end of everything. Initiate dimensional shields, Martinez ordered. The human ships suddenly seemed to become translucent. The darkness passed right through them without effect, but maintaining dimensional displacement was burning through their power reserves at an incredible rate. The battle had become a race against time. Could the humans destroy the Devourers before their advanced weapons drained all their energy? The answer came from an unexpected source. Admiral Martinez, came a new voice on the communication system. This is Commander Vex of the Galactic Council Fleet. We're moving to assist. Martinez looked at her tactical display in shock. The Council Fleet, all 3,000 ships, was dropping out of hyperspace behind the Devourers. But they weren't using normal weapons, they were using human technology. How? Martinez asked. Ambassador Chen's voice came through the communication system. We shared our defensive systems with the Council Fleet 3 days ago. They can't use our offensive weapons, they don't have the training. But they can fight. The Devourers suddenly found themselves trapped between two fleets. The human ships continued their deadly dance, while the Council vessels provided covering fire and support. For the first time in 400 years, the galaxy was fighting back as one, but the Devourers had one more. Surprise. The largest ship began to glow with an energy signature that made every sensor scream. Warnings. Admiral, the tactical officer whispered. They're charging some kind of superweapon. Energy levels are off the charts. Martinez looked at the readings and understood. The Devourers weren't just trying to win this battle. They were going to destroy the entire star system, make it impossible for any life to exist here ever again. She had one chance to stop them. All ships, prepare for ramming speed. The price of victory. Admiral, you can't be serious. Captain Kim's voice cracked with shock. Ramming speed against that thing will be suicide. Admiral Martinez stared at the massive Devourer supership on her view screen. It was still growing, consuming the wreckage from the battle to make itself even larger. Its weapon was charging up, a beam that would crack the system star and turn it into a supernova. Sometimes suicide is the only option, Martinez replied calmly. All human vessels, this is Admiral Martinez. Prepare to follow the Prometheus in a final attack. We're going to ram that thing's weapon core. Across the fleet, human captains looked at their crews. These weren't professional soldiers. They were farmers' kids and artists' children who had trained in secret their whole lives. They were accountants who practiced gunnery on weekends. They were teachers who learned to pilot warships between classes. Captain Kim wiped tears from her eyes. The Fury stands ready, Admiral. One by one, every human ship reported in. 300 vessels, ready to die to save the galaxy. But then something unexpected happened. Human fleet, came a new voice. Captain Zara of the Galactic Council, you won't face this alone. On the tactical display, Martinez watched in amazement as Council ships began forming up with the human vessels. Not behind them, not supporting them, right alongside them, ready to make the same sacrifice. Captain Zara, Martinez said, you don't have to do this. This isn't your war. With respect, Admiral, yes it is. The Devourers want to consume the entire galaxy. That makes it everyone's war. More voices joined in. Captain Thex of the Alteran Peace Fleet, Commander Boros from the Mining Worlds, even Ambassador Keth from proud Drakmor. We may not know how to fight like humans, Keth growled, but we know how to die with honor. The combined fleet, 6,000 ships from 100 worlds, turned toward the Devourer superweapon. But before they could begin their final charge, space itself seemed to tear open. New ships poured out of the dimensional rift. Ships with designs no one recognized. Ships that looked ancient but moved with impossible grace. This is Fleet Commander Arya of the Eternal Watch, came a voice speaking perfect galactic standard. "We have come to honor an old debt." The view screen showed the new arrivals. Their ships were beautiful, all flowing curves and crystalline structures. They looked like they were made of captured starlight. Admiral Martinez had never seen their like before. "Commander Arya, identify yourself. What is the Eternal Watch?" "We are what remains of the first civilizations the Devourers attacked 400 years ago. They believed they destroyed us. They were wrong. We retreated to dimensions beyond their reach and waited." "Waited for what?" "For someone to prove the Devourers could be beaten. Humanity showed us it was possible. Now we return to finish what you started." The Eternal Watch ships moved forward, and their weapons were like nothing anyone had ever seen. Beams of pure creation that didn't just destroy Devourer vessels, they unmade them, returned their matter to the basic building blocks of reality. The tide of battle shifted instantly, but the Devourer supership was almost finished charging its star-killing weapon. Time was running out. "All ships," Martinez ordered, "maximum speed. We have one chance." The combined fleet accelerated toward the supership. The Devourers threw everything they had at the incoming vessels. Space filled with energy beams, missiles, and clouds of destruction, ships began to die. The Council cruiser Harmony took a direct hit and vanished in a ball of plasma. The human destroyer Vengeance rammed a Devourer frigate and both ships exploded together. The beautiful Eternal Watch vessel, Starweaver, sacrificed itself to clear a path through a field of enemy mines. But the survivors kept coming. Prometheus. "To all ships," Martinez announced, "we're almost in range. When I give the signal, every vessel focuses fire on the superweapon's energy core. We only get one shot." The supership's weapon was nearly ready. Its energy readings were climbing toward the critical point. In 60 seconds, it would fire and turn the system star into a bomb. 50 seconds. The Prometheus shuddered under enemy fire. Half its weapon systems were offline. Its shields were failing. 40 seconds. Captain Kim's Fury pulled alongside the flagship. "Admiral, my ship can't take much more, but we're with you to the end." 30 seconds. The supership's weapon core was visible now, a sphere of contained energy the size of a moon, pulsing with the power to destroy solar systems. 20 seconds. All ships fire everything. 6,000 vessels opened fire at once. Energy beams, missiles, exotic weapons from the Eternal Watch, even old-fashioned kinetic projectiles. Everything the galaxy's combined technology could produce focused on one target. 10 seconds. The supership's armor cracked. Its weapon core was exposed. 5 seconds. Martinez made her choice. "This is Admiral Martinez to all human vessels. It's been an honor serving with you." She slammed her hand down on the manual override. The Prometheus shot forward at ramming speed, directly into the superweapon's core. The explosion lit up half the galaxy. When the light faded, the Devourer supership was gone. The remaining enemy vessels, suddenly leaderless, began to retreat toward dark space. But the victory had cost everything. Of the 300 human ships that entered the battle, only 12 survived. The Council fleet was reduced to scattered remnants. The Eternal Watch had lost 2/3 of their ancient vessels, and Admiral Martinez was gone with her ship. Captain Kim, now the senior surviving human officer, opened a channel to the entire galaxy. "This is Captain Sarah Kim of Earth's Defense Fleet. The immediate threat has been neutralized. The Devourers are in retreat, but..." Her voice broke. The price was almost everything. She paused, looking at the wreckage floating in space. Ships from 100 worlds, all destroyed in the defense of the galaxy. Admiral Martinez's last order was to send a message to Earth, to every human colony. The words were, "The galaxy is safe. The mission is complete. Tell our families we kept our promise." As Kim spoke, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. The retreating Devourers were being hunted down by local defense fleets. Fleets that had suddenly found the courage to fight because Earth had shown them it was possible to win. The galaxy would survive, but it would never be the same. New dawn 3 months after the Battle of the Galactic Rim, Captain Sarah Kim stood in the Memorial Garden on Earth. Around her, 10 billion flowers bloomed, one for every being who died in the war. She wasn't alone. Representatives from every species in the galaxy had come to honor the fallen. The garden stretched for miles, covering what used to be the secret military base where Admiral Martinez had planned the defense of civilization. "Captain Kim," came a familiar voice. Ambassador Chen approached, looking older but somehow more peaceful than before. "The Council has reached its decision," Kim turned. At 30 years old, she was now the commanding officer of Earth's remaining fleet. 12 ships to protect the homeworld. What did they decide? They want to merge all military forces under human command, create a single galactic defense fleet with Earth as the central command. Kim was quiet for a long time. "And what did you tell them?" "I told them no." Chen smiled at Kim's surprised expression. "Humanity didn't fight to become rulers of the galaxy. We fought to save it. There's a difference." They walked together through the memorial garden. Each section was dedicated to a different species that had fought in the war. Humans, Council species, and even the mysterious Eternal Watch had their own areas of remembrance. "The truth is," Chen continued, "we can't go back to the way things were. The galaxy knows what humans are capable of now. Some species fear us. Others want to worship us. Both reactions are dangerous. So what do? We do what we've always done. We adapt." Chen led Kim to a new section of the garden where construction crews were working. The sign read, "Galactic Defense Academy, opening next year." "We're going to teach them," Chen explained. "Every species that wants to learn. Not just human tactics, but human philosophy. How to fight when fighting becomes necessary. How to make the hard choices. How to survive." Kim nodded slowly. "And us, what happens to humanity? We become teachers instead of warriors. We help the galaxy prepare for the next threat, because there's always a next threat." As they talked, a young girl ran up to them. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old, with bright eyes and dirt on her hands from planting flowers. "Are you Captain Kim?" the girl asked. "My daddy says you're a hero." Kim knelt down to the girl's level. "What's your name?" "Emma. I'm planting flowers for my uncle. He was on one of the ships that didn't come home." Kim's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry about your uncle, Emma." "It's okay," the girl said with the matter-of-fact honesty of children. "Daddy says Uncle Mike helped save everyone. That's what heroes do, right? They save people." "Yes," Kim whispered. "That's what heroes do." Emma skipped away to continue her planting. Chen and Kim watched her go. "You know," Chen said, "in all our planning for war, we forgot something important. We forgot to plan for peace." "What do you mean?" "For 300 years, every human child grew up knowing they might have to fight for the galaxy's survival. Now that threat is over. What do we tell the next generation?" Kim looked around at the memorial garden. Children from dozens of species were playing together, planting flowers, laughing without fear. For the first time in centuries, they could grow up without the shadow of war hanging over them. "We tell them the truth," Kim said finally. "We tell them that sometimes good people have to do terrible things to protect what they love. We tell them that peace is worth fighting for, and we make sure they understand that the galaxy survived because different species chose to stand together." Chen nodded. "The hardest battles are over, but in some ways the real work is just beginning." 6 months later, the first class of the Galactic Defense Academy graduated. The students came from every corner of known space. They learned human military tactics, but they also learned something more important: how to work together despite their differences. The galaxy was changing. Trade routes that had been abandoned during the war were reopening. New colonies were being founded in systems that had been empty for centuries. Art and music flourished as species shared their cultures without fear, but humanity remained watchful. In hidden bases throughout human space, sensors monitored the dark regions beyond the galactic rim. New ships were built, not warships like the Prometheus, but fast scouts designed to give early warning of any threat. Because the galaxy had learned an important lesson from the war with the Devourers. Peace was not the absence of conflict. Peace was the presence of those willing to defend it. Captain Kim, now Admiral Kim, stood on the bridge of the new flagship Martinez, named for her fallen commander. The ship was different from the old warships, smaller, more elegant, designed for exploration rather than destruction. "Admiral," her communication officer reported, "we're receiving a message from the edge of the galaxy. It's from the Eternal Watch." The view screen showed Commander Arya looking as ageless and mysterious as ever. "Admiral Kim, we wanted to inform you that our long watch is ending. The dimensional barriers are stable. The old threats are contained. We're returning to our home reality. Will we see you again?" Kim asked. Arya smiled. "Perhaps. When the galaxy faces a threat it cannot handle alone, the Eternal Watch will remember its friends. But we believe that time is far in the future. You have built something beautiful here. A civilization that knows how to defend itself without losing its soul." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, the last of the Eternal Watch ships vanished into dimensional space, returning to whatever realm they called home. Kim turned to her crew, humans, Drakmorians, Altarans, and a dozen other species working side by side. "Set course for the Academy. The new class of cadets is graduating tomorrow, and I promise to give the commencement speech." As the Martinez flew toward Earth, Admiral Kim thought about what she would tell the graduates. Young beings from across the galaxy who had chosen to dedicate their lives to protecting others. She would tell them about Admiral Martinez and the Prometheus, about Captain Zara and the Council Fleet's courage, about the price of peace and the responsibility that came with power. But mostly she would tell them about hope. How a galaxy full of different species had looked into the darkness and chosen to stand together. How they had faced extinction and emerged stronger. The galaxy no longer screamed in fear when Earth's ships appeared. Instead, they whispered words of gratitude. And in the memorial gardens of Earth, 10 billion flowers bloomed in honor of those who gave everything so the galaxy could have tomorrow. The war was over. The peace was just beginning. The end.